This river built a city. It brought rich soil for wide grain fields along its banks. It threw itself through rapids and over great falls. It finding stones of the earliest settlers. It attracted to itself a rapidly growing community, for water was power. Turned many mills until men proudly called the place the Flower City. Today electricity is power, and many varied industries build here wealth and world renown. But it is still appropriate that hard by the river men have established the public library in the very center of the city. For knowledge is power, and a public library is a powerhouse of learning. Its power is felt in the community not by books alone, but by the members of its staff and by the vitality of its services. The Central Hall is the heart of a library system serving 325,000 people. Many specialists work at different tasks.
William Charles Britton, better known as Bill.
I'm glad I don't have to write this all down by hand. Science and Technology, will you please take this call?
Well, I guess I'm all set for the 3:30 branch delivery.
Two colors for this poster. It's exciting to start a new book on its way.
I'm certainly glad the home has books from the public library. The days don't seem so long.
There's the bell. That makes 1,000. This book was loved to death, all right.
"50 years ago, children were the undiscovered citizens of the reading public. Today they have their own books studded with bright pictures, and their place in the sun in each of the city's 23 library centers. In the free school story hour, conducted by a trained children's librarian, youngsters early learn the fun of sharing a good story, and parents are learning too what books to read aloud and how to read them effectively. Here in the children's room, these easy books have been carefully chosen. They will be read and reread. The flavor of some books improves with each reading. Along about second grade comes that red-letter day when a child gets his library card and can draw out books on his own. Everybody knows that books open many doors for young inquirers, but here's a real secret door masquerading as a bookshelf. It's a door into stories and dolls and dreams, to a simpler world perhaps than some of us have fashioned. School children visit the nearest branch to learn how to use the library. This is a 5th grade lesson at Monroe Branch. Some of the 12,000 children last year who learned their library reference tools by practice at first hand. To reach many more children, the library takes to the air in its radio program.
Please, sir, is this a bookshop?
Indeed it is. a magic bookshop. And this is what goes on in the studio as children in 139 schools tune in to the library's weekly radio broadcasts. And this is one of the many grades listening in each Monday. These dramatic presentations by older students start a recurring demand for the books mentioned in the broadcast. Some children can't come in to borrow books for themselves. Then the current of library services flows out to, as here in the Convalescent Hospital for Children. A lucky librarian she who can thus lend wings to a child's imagination. You'll find us flattered but not flustered when parents and teachers drop in to ask for help. They ask, "What is the best children's encyclopedia?" Or, "Can you get Teddy interested in some worthwhile books?" Although he may never see his parents or his home, surely he becomes at this moment a citizen of one world and of all time. No doubt about it, education in one form or another is our chief function. For example, a good deal of schoolwork gets done in the library. Here in Hudson Branch, handy to the high school across the way, this boy can find enough help in reference tools to hold his history teacher spellbound. Actually, this librarian represents the greatest service we put at his command. Each librarian can draw upon 5 years of college training and the human qualities that make that training count. With the end of homework in sight, they begin to call for pamphlets about job possibilities. Also, they want to know, what college shall I go to? Well, there are hundreds of college catalogs on those shelves, enough to stagger sextillions of infidels. But for this fellow, there's a trained rescuer in the offing. Not all education consists of formal schooling. In books, one can have the greatest teachers of all time and free tuition. In addition to division specialists, a reader's advisor offers expert personal guidance for both individuals and clubs. Here we are preparing for a home economics group meeting in the library. The book list is the kind we prepare for various organizations. Thus, the library serves as a medium for public education, as surely as a school. This happens to be Mr. Don Hershey, local architect, consulting with his clients, the Byron Morgans. It could be a group in California or Kansas faced with like problems, forced to find the answers without help, except that many of the answers are already in magazines and books on home planning. You'll agree that the result of their library research is distinguished. One day, Mrs. Leonard Lee Bacon and the library discovered each other. We sent her a notice that the book she wanted had come in. After the Bacons had turned a shabby section of Gibbs Street into model apartments, Mrs. Bacon wanted to find out about backyard city gardens. Even the blue garden gate. One moment it was a picture in the library's copy of House Beautiful, and then, well, here it is in the garden itself. Not so long ago, like other backyards in this neighborhood, it was just a drab depository for milk bottles and ash cans. Today, a spot of green rested out of brick and concrete in the core of the city. It's a lift for tired eyes, an escape for a moment from reality. That house, this garden, are books well read by wise readers. Their books burst out of their buckram covers, quickened into effective life. A library also encourages good citizenship. Here it inherits the contents of an old trunk, which become part of our unique collection of regional material. Such things make the citizens of our past come alive. The city is the fortunate heir of library funds, buildings, collections, and books, which form living memorials. Thus, Rundle, Reynolds, Gleason, Carnahan are citizens of the year, every year. Perhaps they mutely say, "This is all yours. Carry it on from here." Well, here is one group that is carrying on the tradition of good citizenship. In one of the library's committee rooms, these school children are assembling their neighborhood news, one of the many constructive activities of a local neighborhood council. The city historian helps further in making the past accessible to citizens of the present. We have caught his assistant in the act of tracking down an item on Susan B. Anthony for an issue of Rochester History, a quarterly publication of the library. Incidentally, you can appreciate how both research and record-keeping are simplified when bales of bulky, fragile newspapers have been reduced to such compact rolls of microfilm as this. The fact that several members of the library staff have published books is a healthy sign of active research. A library does more than preserve and record. It makes records work. Man indeed shall not live by bread alone. But since he does have to earn his daily bread, the library's reference materials and staff make the task easier. In fact, over 65,000 reference questions came our way last year. We choose a single example from our daily diary. Mr. F. John Powell, sales manager, has learned to let us help him with his problems. These are the questions he asked us.
What is the cost of a two-color full-page advertisement in Time? What accounts in this city does the Goosaw, Kahn and Company advertising agency handle? What is the distance between Boston and Liverpool? How many employed men are there in New England? What is the address of the Acme Express in Boston? who was the Secretary of the National Cotton Council of America. What regulations has the Federal Trade Commission issued about the use of terms like rayon, wool, and pure dye?
How did he use these answers? Well, our guess is that he wanted to plan his sales territory and place his advertising account. In any case, as a taxpayer, he was merely drawing dividends on his investment in a free public library. Most people come in for the simplest reason of all. They like to read. This soldier who asked for some poems reminds us that Carthage or Coventry may be destroyed, but some reader sometime will find in some book whatever of worth they produced. When a youngster complains, "I've got no place to go and nothing to do," perhaps he doesn't know that there is a young people's room like this as near as his library. The branch libraries, functioning as neighborhood centers, can adapt to the needs of special groups. A neighborly interest develops in front of as well as behind the desk. This branch library stresses its foreign book collection, an important service for the city's highly skilled foreign-born workers and their families. Readers discover a timeless land beyond war or poverty or age. Here the skillful find new skills, the lonely find unfailing friends, the poor share the riches of the greatest minds and souls of all ages. Not by books alone does the modern public library provide material for enrichment and recreation. Recorded music presents the experience of other minds as surely as a printed page. Today, motion pictures are doubly valued as a means of enriched understanding. Today we read from pictures. On film, we record what we have seen. From film, we know what others in far lands have learned. Out of an enriched life come creative works. We cannot know all that had their source in a book on a library shelf, but these are some of the achievements in which the library claims a share. In all these services, the Board of Trustees, the Director, and the staff are associates. Trustees are outstanding citizens who generously give their active aid as a public service. Largely because of their interest and that of their predecessors, the Rochester Public Library has grown from its modest beginning in 1912 to the 12 branches and 11 sub-branches of the present. At this meeting I was happy to report that 2 million volumes a year left our shelves during the past 10 years. Unfortunately, I could not measure what their impact was upon this city. What zealous youths have these books helped to educate? What businessmen earned a better living? What homes promised well for happier families? What citizens would be more alert for Rochester's welfare? whose creative work was quickened into life by another's example. Yes, these values resist our measurement, just as the river nurtured these shafts of steel in secret ways. So the library is the wellspring of a city's spirit and a power in the land.